There we go. So I'm going to just sort of say a little bit about myself and how I work for those of you who may be new. So I'm a clairaudient and an empath, and I hear, and when I hear, I whisper the words as they come and repeat them. You're going to hear things twice. And now I have two screens, and I'm seeing myself all over the place. Um, so, if you're new, it takes a little bit of getting used to just the way that I work, but it's usually fine. And what I would like to say is, if you're new, I don't plan these things. I know the title of the series, and really that's about it. I will say that the guides began the newest book, they're calling it the Book of Freedom, a few weeks ago. They delivered probably 80 or 90 pages of it in front of students during a retreat we just held in Boone, North Carolina. They did some in a workshop in Boston, some in a workshop in New York City. So it seems as if this book may be entirely delivered in front of people, and I don't know if they're planning on doing any of it tonight or during some of this series, but given the title, Freedom from Fear, and it's the Book of Freedom, I think it's possible. So just heads up that it's a possibility. And occasionally we do include some of your questions in the books if they're pertinent to the teaching, but I don't know that that's where we're going to go tonight. So I'm going to start now, and I'd like to start off, as I always do, with a little prayer of protection. I just do this to set a common field. So I'm going to ask that we all sit back and close our eyes. And very, very, very softly, please, if you would. Repeat after me. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the Spirit of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. So be it. Silently set the intention that you're only open and receptive to those energies and that information which are for your highest good in the perfect amounts needed for your healing and evolution at this time. Word I am words designed. Some of you decide prior to election, prior to incarnation, the lifetime, that this will be the lifetime where you transmit a frequency that is not hold vibration, that does not hold the vibration of fear. You acclimate to fear at birth. You acclimate to fear at birth. You become accustomed to it. You become accustomed to it. It becomes part of the air you breathe. It becomes a part of the air that you breathe, and your expectations from encounters in the acquiescence sphere, and in the acquiescence to fear, in your agreement to it, in your agreement to it, the landscape you perceive yourself through, the landscape that you perceive yourself through encompasses fear, and the expectation, and the expectation will always be there, that it will always be there. Here we come tonight to tell you something different, to tell you something different, because you have known something, because you have known something, because you have agreed to prior, because you have agreed to it prior, does not mean it will exist. It will exist for an eternity, The purview of fear. The purview of fear is to mask other things. Fear seeks to hide. Fear seeks to hide what it covers, and once you unmask fear and see what lies beneath it, and see what lies beneath it, your agreement changes. Now, to be fear. Now, to be in agreement to fear is to look around you and say, is to look around you and say, I am afraid. I am afraid. I see this thing. I see this thing. Those people, perhaps. Those people, perhaps. I see the situation. I see the situation. I agree. And I agree that my safety is dependent, that my safety is dependent upon its outcome, and the perception. And the perception that fearing the situation, will guarantee you safety, will guarantee you safety is one of the ways that fear seeks to claim you, that fear seeks to claim you in a complicit way with its requirements for a world. The moment you realize, we say the very moment, and we say the very moment that to be in fear is to be something, is to be in agreement to something that seeks to control you, that seeks to control you. You have an out, you have an out, you have a way out. You have a way out or a way above, the transmission that you've been attending to, that you have been attending to. What you see before you in any world, in any vibration, is not conscious, is an outpicturing of consciousness ramifications, and the ramifications of fear upon what you see, claims things as fearful. In this class we intend to take you beyond fear, to a new way of seeing, to a new way of seeing, and consequently claiming a world that does not agree to fear, that does not agree to fear. Then you become complicit. To something very different, Peace, we would suggest, is what you will find when you stop residing in a landscape. When you stop residing in a landscape where you are told you are not safe, where you are told you are not safe, what your safety is, or what your safety is predicated upon other people doing as you would have them do, doing as you would have them do. Each of you comes to us with a petition, may I be free, may I be free, may I know myself as free, may I know myself as free, may I claim freedom, may I claim freedom, not only from the known, but from the shell that I perceive myself as, that I have perceived myself as claiming me, that is claiming me at the cost of self, at the cost of the true self I know is here, that I know is here. We seek your liberation. We seek your liberation for you, and with you in some ways, and with you in some ways, as we sing your song for you, You are free, 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 you are free. And at the level of agreement, that we come to you in, you are unafraid. You are unafraid because we don't agree to you in fear, because we don't agree to you in fear. We understand where you come. We understand where you come to, and what you come from, and what you come from. We understand that you have been complicit, that you have been complicit to all the creation, to all of the creations on this plane, unknowingly in many ways, and claiming the very things into manifestation. You should say that you should say, or might say, you would never want to claim, but you have done this. But you have done this, you've done this for the ages, and you have done this for the ages. So the mission of fear, to decide for you, and tell you where you should be, and tell you where you should be, or how you should behave, has made itself known as a predominant energy in this field. The lifting above it need not be so difficult, if you understand that it is all an illusion, that it is all an illusion. Now, you don't like that word. Well, I know my fear. Well, I know my fear. Tell that to me. Tell that to me when I am frightened. When I am frightened, I will show you what is not illusion, and I will show you what is not an illusion. Your response to any encounter, is decided by you, in a number of ways, in any number of ways. The history you call to you, the history you call to you culturally, the personal history you bring, the personal history you bring, your expectation of outcome, your expectations of outcome, and your design for the encounter as it seeks to meet its needs, in the way you would prescribe, So if you are having a fearful response, you are claiming fear. You are claiming fear in agreement to outcome, in agreement to an outcome that you expect could come, or will come, and manifesting in accord to the outcome as fear would have you do it, You may lose a house, you may lose a child, you may lose an occupation, you may lose an occupation, you may lose faith, but your well-being. But your well-being, we have to say, cannot be contingent upon an outcome, if you understand that your true self, the divine as what you are, is always with you, You have an attachment, an agreement that will support you, through any encounter of the design of fear, which is to claim you in its vibration, which is to claim you in its vibration, will not be met by the true self, who exists at a level of accord above fear. This is as simple as it gets. This is as simple as it gets. When you're invited to fear, you have to ask yourself, who is afraid? Who is afraid? What aspect of self is in this agreement, to be in accord to fear, And then if you realize, which means know, the divine self is what you are, the divine self as what you are, in form and field, and claim the identity of the true self, in its embodiment. I know who I am in truth. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free. I am free. I am free. I am free. You have propelled yourself. You have propelled yourself above the vibration of fear. It may act in accord with your knowing. Underline that word. If you're in your knowing, if you are in your knowing, you aren't afraid. You are unafraid. The perception you have is that if you are thinking, you are knowing. You are knowing, and this is never the case, and this has never been the case. The true self knows. The true self knows. The small self thinks. The small self thinks, and the small self assumes. And the small self assumes outcome based upon prediction, born in narrative, or the data of history, My child is doing this. My child is doing this. He will become this kind of man. He will become this kind of a man, based upon the evidence that I have accrued. I see what will become. I see what will become of my child, the true self. The true self does not operate this way, It does not disregard data. It's usually very helpful. But the true self realizes potential potential and claims what is always true, and claims what is always true in the face of other things, in the face of other things, we would suggest. And we would suggest, in the face of evidence, in the face of the evidence that fear would seek to supply with, that fear would seek to supply you with, you should be afraid. You should be afraid. What a ridiculous thing to say. What a ridiculous thing to say. One should never be afraid. One should never be afraid. One may experience fear. One may experience fear, but it's never an obligation. But it is never an obligation, nor is it something we learn, nor is it the only way to learn. You may learn through fear. You may learn through fear. You may have an encounter. You may have any encounter, manifestation, in manifestation on this plane, if you wish to learn through fear. And if you wish to learn through fear, it will always be there for you. It will always be there for you and become your teacher and become your teacher. But there are higher ways to learn, but there are higher ways to learn, and easier ways as well, and easier ways as well, if you are willing. If you are willing, what we would like to do, what we would like to do is support you each in revelation, in a revelation, revealing of truth, in a revealing of truth, that the use of fear to direct you is no longer a requirement, is no longer a requirement for this incarnation, the use of fear, that the use of fear to protect you is no longer a reason, is no longer a reason to align to it, that the being in fear, that the being in fear claims you in fear, and will collude with fear itself, and will collude with fear itself to manifest its world around you, if you unmask fear. If you unmask fear, if you witness what is beyond it, you will always see the light. You will always see the light. If you understand that the action of fear is to claim more of the same, you have to ask what fear is seeking to diminish. What fear is seeking to diminish, and we would say it is always lying. It is always lying. Fear is a liar. Fear is a liar, and your realization of this and your realization of this will support you in seeing the light, that it is seeking to hide, that it is seeking to hide. What would happen to any of you, if for 1 hour, just 1 hour, there was not one fearful thought, not one fearful idea, not one fearful idea, nothing to call you into agreement with the vastness of it, into agreement with the vastness of it. Every encounter with fear is an invitation to more. And the moment you deny that invitation, and the moment you deny that invitation, you claim the potential for a realignment, that will support you in ways that will support you in the awareness that there is no reason, no design in fear other than to claim more of itself, Now Paul is sitting here counting all the times he has taken actions in fear, taking actions in fear, and seeing where he was right, and seeing where he was right. I was right to be afraid. I was right to be afraid. I was right to stay away. I was right to stay away. If Paul could understand how he has been ruled by fear, just as you all have, just as you all have through unconscious agreement, you would agree to never be frightened again, What will they think of me? What will they think of me? Is the voice of fear. What will become of me? What will become of me? Is the voice of fear. What will they do to me? What will they do to me is the voice of fear, is the voice of fear. How many of you agree to these things? How many of you agree to these things every day, without questioning them, without questioning them? This is the voice of fear. This is the voice of fear seeking to make itself known, seeking to make itself known as your protector, as your protector. If I do this or that, if I do this or that, they will think well of me. They will think well of me if I do this or that. If I do this or that, they will not harm me. They will not harm me if we do this or that. If we do this or that, we will all be protected. We will all be protected from those people that we are so frightened of, that we are so frightened of. The collective agreement to be in fear. The collective agreement to be in fear is what you claim in war, is what you claim in war when a country is in fear. And when a country is in fear, you can expect a war. You can expect a war to be its outventuring, to be its outpicturing. Because what is war? Because what is for but an idealization of fear, but an idealization of fear seeking to justify its action, seeking to justify its action, which is to act in the prisoner, which is to act in separation, to deny the divine, and to deny the divine that is present in all things, that is present in all things. If you decide that you can be free of fear, that you can be free of fear, then no longer welcome it, that you will no longer welcome it as your authority, as your protector, as your teacher, as your teacher. If you go and say, if you are willing to say, I may learn another way, I may learn in another way, you will realize it. You will realize, because you will not be acting in fear that seeks to preclude that choice, that seeks to preclude that choice. Can this happen? He asks. Can this happen? He asks. I would like to believe this. I would like to believe this. I would like to be free of fear. I would like to be free of fear. I'm willing to be. I am willing to be. Show me how it is done. Show me how it is done. It's done through agreement. It is done through agreement. You all must understand this. You all must understand this. First, you must agree. First, you must agree to the potential of it, to the potential of it. I can be free of fear. I can be free of fear. The potential, the first step. The potential is the first step, and the alignment. Then the alignment to freedom from fear. From fear, the manifestation of it, the manifestation of it, the potential in realization, the potential in realization, something I do as something that can be aligned to, and then the claim, I am free. I am free. I am free of fear. I am free of fear. I am free from its vices. I am free from its divisiveness. I am free from its lies. I am free from its lies and its need to replicate itself, First, the potential. First, the potential in agreement, then the vibrational accord to it, then the vibrational accord to it. It exists, so it can be claimed, and then the claim itself, which comes in the form of alignment, to the true self, who does not agree to fear, who does not agree to fear. We are not really personality self. We are not ridding the personality self of its fear of spiders, or snakes, or past deaths, We are reclaiming the true self. We are reclaiming the true self as what you are, so that there is no agreement to fear. Do you understand the difference? Imagine you have a board. Imagine you have a board with a knot in it. You can pierce the board. You can pierce the board and have the knot removed, or you can claim the board, or you can claim the board in its perfection, without removing the knot. The knot itself will become part and parcel of the board, and no longer seem differentiated from it. This is not surgery. This is reacclimation. This is reacclimation. acclamation in a higher way, to the what that you are, to the what that you are, who is not in accord to fear, who is not in accord to fear. So Paul has a question. So Paul has a question for claiming these things. But if we're claiming these things, are we claiming the small self? Aren't we claiming them as the small self? Isn't it the small self? Isn't it the small self that's saying I can agree, that is saying I can agree to be without fear, to be without fear in some ways, yes. In some ways, yes, because you have will. Because you have will, the alignment must be made, and will must be made in will, the choice to pray. The choice to pray is still a choice, The choice to rise from your bed each morning, the choice to rise from your bed each morning is still a choice, The will that you hold, and the will that you hold, braided with the true self, or the divine will, the divine will is who claims the world, without fear. But you must agree. Why must we agree? He says, why must we agree? He says, can't it just happen? Can't it just happen? We'll tell you why it cannot. We will tell you why it cannot. You are actually accountable. You are actually accountable to all of your creations, Everything you see, you are participatory to. You are participatory to. It is not happening at you. It is not happening at you. It is happening in accord to you. It is happening in accord to you. And to negate your accountability to your own creations, would be to deny you the responsibility that you have incurred when you realize who and what you are. When you realize who and what you are, you make a world new. You make a world new. You claim very differently. But we cannot lift you. Out of your own creations, without your agreement, to attend to the world that you have claimed in fear, Imagine this. I will be without fear. I will be without fear, except for my ex-husband. I will be without fear. I will be without fear, except for poverty. I will be without fear. I will be without fear, except for the fear of death. These are the claims of the small self, then, that the small self then has to agree to release, in its alignment, in higher accord, because any of those things, if you're investing in fear, that you are investing in fear, will be in agreement to you, at the cost of being claimed for you, at the cost of what else may be claimed for you, unless you are willing to release the fear of the ex-husband, or the fear of poverty, or the fear of death, or the fear of death itself. You will not rise above them. This is too much to ask, he says. This is too much to ask, he says. How will we operate to this? How will we ever do this? Can this really happen? We will tell you one thing. There is an aspect of you present now. There is an aspect of you present now, of all of you right now, who is unafraid, who has never known fear, cannot agree to it. This is the true self. This is the true self. The divine is what you are. And the divine, as what you are, has long been our teaching, in the claims we offer you. You align to this aspect. And realize it as what, and realize it as the what, the manifest self. And as you do this, you cannot agree to fear. You cannot agree to fear because it does not exist. You're not pretending you're not afraid of it. You are not pretending to be not frightened of death, or that man you once married, or that man you once married, you know what the truth is. You know what the truth is. You know who you are. You know who you are, and at this level of choice. And at this level of choice, you do not agree to fear. You do not agree to fear because to do so would negate the truth of your being, would negate the truth of your being. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that you could forgive the whole world? That you could forgive the whole world, but one human being, but one human being. Unless that one human being is in fact forgiven, no one is forgiven. No one is forgiven. Do you understand this? Do you understand this? Because the treason against the true self, against the true self is held by one or 1,000 or 1,000. It matters not. It matters not. Finally, we have to say that any fear that you would hide and protect and covet and seek to keep silent as opposed to releasing it from the light. From the light to the light will not be known by the light till you've agreed to it, until you have agreed to it. The being that you are has this capacity. The road is not so hard. The road is not so hard. You make it hard. You make it hard because you want what you have, because you want what you have. You agree to fear all day long. You agree to fear all day long. What if they judge me? What if they judge me? What if I'm not right? What if I am not right? What if they are not right? What if they are not right, and I will decide for them, and I will decide for them who they should be, who they should be? This is the voice of fear. This is the voice of fear. It will mask itself, and it will mask itself any way you can imagine, in any way you can imagine. If you decide today that you are willing, we will take you where we wish to take you. We will take you where we wish to take you, which is to the octave that you may know of as peace, that you may know of as peace. But the requirement is a great one. But the requirement is a great one. Are you willing to release your need? Are you willing to release your need to use fear as a predictor, to use fear as a protector? Are you willing? Are you willing to stop agreeing to the requirements of fear, to stop agreeing to the requirements of fear, to tell you what you should do, to tell you what you should do, who you should hate, and what you should believe, and what you should believe? If you are willing. If you are willing, we will meet you. We will meet you wherever you are, and we will meet you wherever you are. Underline those words. Underline those words wherever you are. Wherever you are, to an agreement to the truth of your being, to the truth of your being, and to freedom, which is your divine birthright, which is your divine birthright. He is interrupting again. He is interrupting again. Well, what does it look like? Well, what does it look like? This is all too good. This is all too good. What do we become in this fearless way? What do we become in this fearless way? We'll tell you exactly what become. We will tell you exactly what you become. You become who you are. You become who you are without fear. Without fear. It's that simple. It's that simple. You see the television at night. You see the television at night and you are unafraid, and you are unafraid. You see man's inhumanity against man. You see man's inhumanity against man, and you are unafraid, and you are unafraid. You will still be propelled to act. You will still be propelled to act, but by certainty, and not by fear, and not by fear. Fear seeks to divide. Fear seeks to divide. It seeks to control. It seeks to control. It seeks to be right. It seeks to be right at the cost of another being wrong. The true self is what you are. The true self as what you are does not operate this way. She has moved beyond it. She has moved beyond it. This is the introduction to this class. This is the introduction to this class. This is not in the text. This is not in the text. This is for the students present. This is for the students present, and those who will hear these words from now on. From now on, we'll commence with the text. We will commence with the text in our class this weekend. In our class this weekend, for those who are gathered here. For those who are gathered here, we wish to attune you. We wish to attune you to the vibration of the word, because many of you are here, because many of you are here for the first time. For the first time, this is the attunement. This is the attunement to the energy connection, to the energy of the Creator in action. We say this after us. Will you say this after us? I'm with my body. I am word through my body. Word, I am word. I am word through my vibration. Word, I am word. I am word through my knowing of myself as word. Word, I am word. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free. I am free. I am free. Now, the vibration you hold has been amended through this attunement, the language we operate in. The language that we operate as encoded vibration is encoded in vibration, the alignment you hold now. The alignment you hold now claims a different broadcast, or the announcement of the true self, through the announcement of the true self. I know who I am. I know who I am, spoken by the true self, not by the small self, does not know, not by the small self, who does not know. The song we sing with you, the song we sing with you is a song of love, is a song of love and the alignment to the truth that is your heritage, in the higher alignment of your soul's agreement, to be made manifest in form. This is your schoolroom. This is your schoolroom, this world you exist in. This world you exist in, this life you are choosing to be in, this life you are choosing to be in, but the offering we gift you with, the true self is what? The true self as what must now be known and agreed to, collectively to lift your world beyond the name of fear, that would seek to control you, We'll say this for each of you now. We will say this to each of you now, that we'll resume, and then we will resume with the teaching through your questions. Through your questions, we will say these words only. We will say these words only. We have come on your behalf. We have come on your behalf in agreement to see you, lifted beyond the creations that you have agreed to as a small self, collectively and individually, both for the manifestation of the kingdom on this plane. The kingdom is the present divine. The kingdom is the presence of the divine in all creation, as we say always. And as we say always, it is here, 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 but may only be known by the one who knows who she is, by the one who knows who she is. We thank you each. We thank you each for a moment. We will return in a moment with your questions. with your questions, period, period, period. They're saying period, period, period. Okay. So I'm going to see just for a second, because my whole desktop screen has changed and I'm seeing a full screen picture. I'm going to try to exit so that I can, there we go. Now I can see the clock so I know what time it is. So thank you for bearing with me. I can also see people's hands raised. So I'm going to go to questions in one moment. I'm going to have a little drink of something. And we'll start the questions on the teaching. I hear on the teaching primarily. Well, they're saying primarily, on the teachings primarily. So, sorry. I think questions on your own lives can be had if they're necessary as well. So I'm going to say good evening now to Joanne. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, Paul.
Hi.
I'm actually Joanne's brother.
Hi,
And
Joanne, brother.
hi, my name is Albert, and I have a personal question that relates to fear, your
Okay.
topic of fear. I've recently been having very intense nightmare where my mind is talking at me and screaming in like multiple voices, and that's fearful. And it's almost as if I'm unable to stop it because it just goes ranting and raving on and on and on. I'm wondering.
Well, I don't usually do dream work. I'll tune into you and see what I get, and this is done more psychically. It's not the guides, although they may want to come in as well. Let me see if I can get you. Well, you're saying it's all you. It's all you. So my sense is you're actually hearing aspects of self. Then the question is, okay, now what? Don't agree to it. Thank you for being there. Let go. I hear don't agree to it, thank it, and let it go. Let it release. Let it release. Honor the fact that it laughs. Honor the fact that it laughs or screams or screams. Acknowledge that it is. Acknowledge the fact that it is and say thank you, no. And say thank you, no. You can't control it. You can't control it by fighting it. By fighting, you can stop the energy, but you can stop giving it energy. And the claim, I am free. And the claim, I am free, 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 will support you in this. Say this if you wish. They're saying from this to me, say this if you wish. So, my only experience with this was, or my big experience with this was when I was in my late 20s. And I was first opening up spiritually, and I had, stopped drinking, and I had stopped doing everything self-destructive that I had enjoyed in my early 20s. And I had the loudest head, and it was the committee. They used to call it the committee. It was loud and not very polite. And I didn't sleep well for a couple of years, truthfully. But the funny thing is, when that stopped, the other presence became available to me. In some ways, it was really just a process of clearing out a lot of old negative stuff and maybe some old attachments as well. So that was my experience. I actually dreamt last night, I'm just remembering this now, twice I woke up having channeled in my sleep before a group of people, which never happens. I don't remember what the lecture was at all, but whoever was there seemed to get a good one. So who knows what we're doing. I'm going to see if the guides anything else for you. So they're actually saying, tell the young man not to be frightened of himself. This will support him very well. This will support him very well, period. And they're saying, period. So I'm going to continue now. And I'm going to go to, please.
It's actually Connie.
Hello, Doug, are you there?
It's actually Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Hi. So I was wondering if the guides could speak more about service. They talk, that's one of the attunements. I know how I serve, and the Book of Truth spoke to it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I go into that, I get to that my service is being in alignment to my divine self and just shining my light. Is there more to it than that, or is that enough?
Well, I hear yes and no if that's your service. Yes, if that's your service, yes, to be in service. To be in service, we realize, is to be realized, aligning as the true self, in action, That is the action. And if that is the action of the true self, that is in fact your service, that is in fact your service, period, period, period. They're saying period. So, I mean, I'll try to speak to this only because this has come up before. The guides say the claim, I know who I am, which they say is the claim of the true self. The true self knows who he is or she is. I know what I am, which means in form and field. I know what I am as the manifestation of the divine in form and field. I know how I serve. They're saying that that's again claimed by the true self. So the true self is who claims, I know how I serve, because the true self does. The small self might have an idea of what service should look like, and that's usually through prescription. So, it doesn't mean you go off and become a Reiki master. It might mean that you're just doing exactly what you're doing in a vastly different way. But how the true self expresses as you is the service you bring. Now, the guides have also said that if you work with that claim, and they say it's a claim of truth, and what is true is always true. I know who I am, I know what I am, I know how I serve, always true at the level of the true self. You don't have to figure it out. You see, essentially what you're doing is you're calling it to you. You're agreeing to that level of accord. Say this. They're saying, say this. Say what? Tell us, let us take this. They're saying, let us take this. Each one of you here, whoever you are, and whatever you bring to the table, have a way to be expressed, have a way to be expressed for the highest good of all, for the highest good of all. You can call this your service. You can call this your service, but you would not know it if you tried to prescribe it. If you tried to prescribe it by occupation or duty, who you are each day, in your field, and your expression is your service as well, is your service as well. It may become a career. But it need not. In order for it to be valid and true as the divine self. As the divine self seeks its realization through all that it encounters, period, period, period. And they're saying period. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to go now to all right. Kevin, good evening.
Good evening, Paul. Thank you so much to you and the guides. My question is about the ever-present kingdom and pure light creations. And it feels like as I am willing to be ever more transparent and permeable to the divine omnipresence and truth, vision is shifting in awesome ways that I'm so infinitely grateful for. And what's showing up and being revealed somehow is like, it's like an ever new flowing forth of sublime light forms and textures. It's almost like it's a current that's pre-existing, but my question is, are these pre-existing creations of consciousness, or are they being presently or currently spontaneously rendered somehow? And am I just imagining this?
Well, what they're saying is both are true. They are pre-existing. But your vision is calling them into manifestation. You're operating in accord. None of you realize how much you impress into the physical realm, through the consciousness you hold, the collective agreements to the world you live in, are in all ways the manifestations or agreement of consciousness made manifest as you are lifting in octaves. What you will see is what exists in a higher octave, is what exists in a higher octave. You're also claiming what is, but you're also claiming what is, or claiming the kingdom, by your agreement to it. The kingdom, as we say, is the awareness of the divine, is the awareness of the divine in all manifestation, but your presence and your witness of it, is what calls it to being as well, is what calls it into being as well. Period. Thank you.
Wow, that's supremely helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's continue now. All right. I'm going to say hello now to Pauline. Good evening.
Hi, Paul. I have a question with regards to fear and consciousness. It's almost as if some aspect of myself is there that shows and reveals the truth, and then there's some aspect of me which is like in this battle, and hence I seem to be getting these head issues, and it's pretty repetitive. It's like once a week. And every time I reflect on it, it's almost like, okay, what am I clearing out? And I was wondering if the guides could speak to the fear. And is this, if we just go straight into alignment, we could have, or is this just a process?
I'm not sure what you mean by head issues, so can you just explain what you mean?
Well, it's literally where I have to, it goes to a migraine where I can no longer function. I can't think. So I can't work. It's almost like it has a total shutdown of me having any thoughts. And so then I have some aspect of myself that actually sees somebody like hasn't hit the program to shut off. And then I see another aspect of myself, like literally, oh, okay, you're trying to reflect on this true aspect of yourself. And it's so confusing.
So
I know.
okay. I'm not a medical intuitive. That's not what I do. But the question is, are these things happening as a result of your doing this work? Is that?
Yeah, sort of like connecting to the fear.
Let me go and see what I can get from you. Well, when I go to you, what I actually hear is, I don't want to change. I don't want to change. Don't make me change. Don't make me change. And you're saying this with a smile. And it's kind of like it's going to happen anyway. It's going to happen anyway. That seems to be what you're agreeing to. Let me see what we can do here. Tell the young lady not to force herself into a new situation. She'll be there. Tell the young lady not to force herself into a new situation when she doesn't want to be there. And that would include alignment. And that would include an alignment that she's preparing for, that she is preparing for but hasn't aligned to yet, but hasn't aligned to yet. The preparation in each stage, or your willingness to agree, or your willingness to agree to who you are in a higher way does in fact require release, does in fact require release of your assumptions of who you are, or think you should be, or think you should be. And your world, we say, also has to shift, has to shift commensurate to your comprehension, So you can't rush the river. So you can't rush the river, but you can be prepared. But you can be prepared. This is the mudra of creation. This is the mudra of creation. If you work with this and claim that you're alive and claim that you are aligning in perfect ways, without fear. Without fear, you will release some of the resistance. You will release some of the resistance that you are experiencing. There is no need to be fearful. There is no need to be fearful of shifting. All you get is what will come, when you become willing to release what you thought you required, period. And they're saying period. Okay.
Thank you so much, Paul.
You're welcome. I'm going to continue now, please. All right. Doreen, good evening. Can you hear me? All right. I'm not hearing Doreen, so I will continue.
Hello, Paul?
Yes, hello.
Oh, it's Doreen here. My phone just did.
Okay, gotcha. What's your question, please?
We spoke once before, and I've been traveling a path of change in my life. It's all of a sudden escalated, and I've made massive changes, and I am in fear right now. I am in fear of who am I now that I'm not that what I was, and how do I survive?
All right. So is there a question?
Well, the question is, I guess, how do I survive, and am I on the right path, and where do I go from here?
I'm going to tune into you and see what you want to tell me at a higher level, and we'll see if we go to the guides. Well, the first thing you say, which is odd, is I don't want anybody to know what I really feel because I don't really know what I feel myself. And so there's a sense of you right now being protective of yourself through this passage. But I have to say, it doesn't feel fear-based. It feels cautious to me, which is a little bit different. It's like I'm walking down a dark hallway and I'm not quite sure where my feet will land or if there's a staircase coming. Do you understand? So you're moving through this in a way that is somewhat restricted, but I'm going to be honest with you, it's coming through literally like a dark hallway. I feel like I'm in a dark passage. Now, fearful. They're saying not fearful, cautious, which is okay. And they're saying which is okay, given the amount of change, given the amount of change you have undertaken. We'll address the fear. Now we will address the fears. So now you are not who you think you are, which is in fact a gift, which is in fact a gift. You cannot rely upon the old, but you cannot rely upon the old for guarantees. This is then the opportunity. This is then the opportunity to agree to who you are, to agree to who you are as the true self, so are supported, so that you are supported by this aspect of you, as you go forward. The idea of releasing something, also implies that you may receive what you require in a higher way. The trust you require now, the trust that you require now is the trust in the true self, is the trust in the true self, or the divine, or if you wish, the God within, the escort that is with you, through this passage, but like all passages, there is an end. There is an end and a new beginning, commensurate to the end, commensurate to the end, if you allow the passage to be what it seeks to be. If you allow the passage to be what it seeks to be, which is a rebirth, you will benefit from it. You will benefit from it if you seek to run back to the old. If you seek to run back to the old, you will find yourself losing your way. You will find yourself losing your way. There is no way but forward. There is no way but forward in the passage you're in the passage you are in, period. And they're saying period. Okay, so I hope that helps some. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm going to continue now. All right. Good evening now to Robert. Hello.
My question is, can the guides elaborate and provide any more context for what this release from fear looks like, or how it could manifest?
Shame. Well, they're saying this, shame, and they're saying this, I think, to you specifically. They're saying shame is fear. Shame is fear. Self-recrimination is fear. The desire to conquer others is fear. The need to be right. The need to be right, to self-justify. To self-justify is fear. If you're not operating with these things, if you are not operating with these things as part of who you think you are, as part of who you think you are liberated from many agreements. You are liberated from many agreements that are made in your world, the idealization of these things. The idealization of these things, someone has to be right, someone has to be right, someone has to be wrong, someone has to be wrong, seeks to replicate itself in the world we live in. in the world you live in when you agree to something new. When you agree to something new, you release the old. You release the old. You stop being participatory. And you stop being participatory to structures that are held, to structures that are held in lower vibration, period, period, period. They're saying period, period, period. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me continue now. Good evening now to Christine. Hello. Oh, you're muted again. Hold on. I'm trying to unmute someone and it's not seeming to work, so. All right. I don't know, Christine, if you can hear me or you can speak, but for whatever reason, hold on. Here we go. Can you hear me now, Christine? Hello? I can hear you, but you have to speak into the mic, please. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You sound like you're a million miles away. Okay, I'm gonna move on, I'm sorry. Okay, let's go elsewhere, please. All right. It's a new name, Brad, good evening.
Hi, Paul. I'm sorry, this is Jack. Brad's here with me, but I've got the question.
Okay.
Okay. I was fascinated this evening when we were talking about how there's almost a cooperation between the ego and the higher self. And the term braid. That was great. That was great. But what it sprung to mind, though, is the intention of the ego. The intention of the ego being to have the desire to transcend fear. But let's be honest, the ego wants to run from fear, wants to hide from fear, doesn't want fear. Everyone's in a quest from that in this world, right? But so it raises the question, how can the ego ever be honest? So when I'm setting my intention, how honest can I be? How honest is my intention? Because I'm acting, the ego is driving the boat.
Well, they're saying not at this level when you claim the words. When you claim the words, I know who I am, I know who I am, the small self is agreeing to speak the words. The small self is agreeing to speak the words, but these words are not spoken. But these are words that can only be spoken by the true self, by the true self. So the agreement is complicit. So the agreement is complicit in your active speech, in your active speech, the coordination or agreement to move beyond the known. To move beyond the known must come at some level with the release of the mandate of the small self, but even to surrender. But even to surrender is an act of will, Do you understand this? Do you understand this when the will is utilized? When the will is utilized in a high way, it is in fact braided. It is in fact braided with the true self, So thy will, not mine, be done. So thy will, not mine, be done is no longer present because you begin to operate in unity, not either or. So the small self's benediction. So the small self's benediction, I am willing is all that's required, If you remember what we said, if you remember what we said, the first step was the potential. The first step was the potential. I may know things differently. I may see the world anew. I may see the world anew. I may move beyond fear. I may move beyond fear. That is the first agreement. That is the first agreement, but it aligns you, but it aligns you to an outcome that can then be claimed, not by the small self, not by the small self, or the small self in some ways, although the small self in some ways is the beneficiary, but you are in agreement to be who you are, without abnegating your authority, without abnegating your authority to the lower concourse of fear. Now, when the small self says, I am free, 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 she is usually saying, I am free of what I don't want, I am free of what I don't want in this situation, and those people. What the true self claims is, I am free of these things. I am free of these things that are not in alignment to who I am, that would seek to control me, and tell me who I should be, and tell me who I should be. I am free of the requirements. I am free of the requirements of a world that has moved into agreement to fear, that has moved into agreement to fear. And the shift that commences is a radical one, The small self is present. The small self is present in her experience, in his way, but the alignment accrues is the alignment of self, is the alignment of the true self manifesting through and of the being that you've known yourself as, the being that you have known yourself as, period. So I don't know if that answered it. It was interesting, but I didn't catch it all. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you. I continue now. Good evening now to, here she is. Deborah, good evening.
Hi. How are you?
I'm okay.
Okay, I have a very strange thing to ask and to see if you can answer this for me. About 2 nights ago, I was watching the video camera of my deck outside, and I saw things flying all over the deck. And I was just, at first I thought it was an animal scurrying up the wall up onto the ceiling, but it just, for the 2 hours, I watched these forms just flying all over the deck. It was like they were having a party. I'm not really sure if that was real. I did get a picture of some of it, but I don't know.
That's really my work, astral. I hear astral, so you were probably seeing astral. Saying this, yes. So when I first started seeing stuff, when I was, in my late 20s, the first things I started seeing were these little, firefly-like things that would sort of pop around people, and then orbs would start showing up. But one of the first things that I saw, which concerned me, were these things that looked like bats, sort of, and they'd shoot around the room, usually up by the ceiling. And I asked somebody at the time who I was working with, and I said, what are those things? And she said, thought forms. And it made perfect sense. I was seeing people's old released energy, and they were just sort of shooting around the room. It's one of the reasons it's not a bad thing to clear your space, after you've been through some stuff, or after you've, been with other people, or in my case, working with clients. Let me see if they want to say anything astral. They're just saying astral and nothing to worry about. And I hear nothing to worry about. So that's what I get.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to go back to one more quick one. Please. And I'm going to say hi to Christopher. Good evening.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
I can. Hi.
Great. Terrific. A brilliant talk. Thank you, Paul and the guides. My request is, can the guides give us an aspirational picture? All right, let's say that we have released our fear and we're living without it. What does my life look like? Your life, all of our lives. What can this world look like when the fear is gone?
What could you contribute to your world, if you were not operating in fear? What would you do? What would you do that you've been frightened to do? How would you sing? How would you sing? What would you do? What would you do if you could care less? If you could care less what the world thought of you, what the world thought of you, what would you do? What would you do if you were not in war? If you were not in agreement to war, but could move beyond it, but could move beyond it and lift the world and lift the world to its potential, the one who can move war. The one who can move war is the one who's lifted beyond it, is the one who has lifted beyond it to the place where war can no longer be known, to the place where war can no longer be known. You're all here to serve. You are all here to serve the claiming of the kingdom which is done by you, which is done by you and all of you through your witness and agreement to be. And agreement to be is what occurs on the other side of fear. On the other side of fear, period, period, period. You're saying period, period, period. Okay? So thank you for the question. I'm going to see if there's anything we would like to say. Yes and no. They're saying yes and no. We would like to say good night. We would like to say good night. We would like to thank them. We would like to thank them. Paul, you may say what you like. Paul, you may say what you like. So I'll say good night too, and thank you all. Please stay on for one more minute. Dustin has some announcements, and I have a feeling this is going to be an interesting series. So I look forward to being with you all next week. Good night, everybody. Here's Dustin.
All right. Well, that was a good session. So we just want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. As I mentioned at the top, we're going to send you both an audio and a video link to the recording from tonight. Be looking out in your inbox. Probably within about 48 hours, it should be there. The series does continue next Wednesday, August 30th, same time, 8 o'clock. If you haven't registered, you can do so at Paul Selig livestream.eventbrite.com. And just a heads up, we have a lot of trips coming up. We might be in your neighborhood sometime soon. We're going to be in Seattle this weekend. The following weekend, we'll be at Esalen for a 5-day, followed by a weekend workshop. Then Minneapolis, Sedona, Calgary, Berkeley, Toronto, New York City, Esalen again, Santa Fe, Austin, and Portland. So that should take us all the way through the end of the year. But all the details and registration info can be found at paulselig.com/events. And as always, we encourage you to come out and work with the guides in person and get on your feet with the energy work. And also just want to put in little note about the community of students who have Paul's membership site called Student of the Guides. This is a place where members can access a huge library of archived workshops and lectures of both with audio, video, and transcript. So if you aren't aware of that and you'd like to check it out and just see what the deal is there, just go to studentsoftheguides.com. And I think you might like that and might enjoy it, as it does have a lot of archived and old, back lectures as well as ongoing new stuff every month, stuff coming up every month. So I think that's it for tonight. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.